do you do at night? I mean, just simply go after fact after fact after fact. You never stop reading.
You just, I think, as a commentator a lot on European games, you just kind of attract stuff, but there's a lot of reading, a lot of speaking to people, and yeah.
Brilliant.
The kids vaguely know who I am. Vaguely. Only vaguely.
Kevin, it's the first ever Winter World Cup. Is it unlikely that it's going to be the last one?
I think there certainly obviously won't be the next one. We know that's going to be in the US, Canada and Mexico. The feeling is that 2030, bids are being discouraged because they're going to have the rotation policy. So it won't be a Winter World Cup with 2030. But back to 2034, maybe there will be. I mean, there's been talk of Saudi Arabia getting involved and bidding and pairing up with another nation or maybe even two. And I think it'll be a wait and see. I think they'll wait to see how this goes. But obviously, there are a lot of factors that are outside the good of the game, maybe, that will influence these things.
And of course, the Saudis, you mentioned them, they're going to keep a very close watch on what Qatar do. I mean, they're next door neighbours. They're right beside each other. So they'll be right across what the Qataris do. So it's a debut World Cup for Qatar. I'm looking at it. Group A, Qatar, Ecuador, Senegal and the Netherlands. And for Senegal, the bad news came. Mane, no Sadio Mane. That's going to affect them badly, surely.
It's an enormous blow. He is the talisman. He is very much the leader. You look at the way that he performed in the African Cup of Nations, which they won. That was an enormous achievement for them. And it was interesting, as soon as he did the injury, or got the injury rather, against Werder Bremen recently, straight away BeIN was saying, look, if he's in pain, he cannot go. He's not going to be able to play. And they were trying to kind of dampen down expectation from the get-go. Senegal named him in the squad and said, even if we just bring him along, if there's any hope that he can play, that would be great. But he's had to have the operation. And so he's been ruled out entirely. He's not the only quality player they have. We know, of course, Edwin Mendy at Chelsea is an excellent goalkeeper, even though this season's been a bit more tricky for him. Kalidou Koulibaly as well, excellent defender, although again at Chelsea not quite happened for him this season. But to lose a player of Mane's experience, his quality, that's a hefty blow.
Is the balance of probability still? I mean, England were likely to draw Senegal in the 16s, weren't they? Does this affect their ability to get out of the group?
Yeah, I think it does. I think Ecuador will certainly pose a test. They're a well-organised side. They've got some quality in midfield. We know that. Moises Caicedo, we know, is an excellent player. So they will be tricky to beat. And that game against Senegal is going to be really, really important. So it's by no means a given that they'll end up playing Senegal. Qatar, I think, have had a long time to get ready for this. This has been their focus for a long time.
Are they any good?
They have a coach in Felix Sanchez who was at Barcelona. He was at La Masia. And so he has a good rep. He worked with Qatar's youth sides originally. And he's worked with this group for a long time. They've got Akram Afif, they've got Almoez Ali, who are decent attacking players. That's where their quality lies. But it'd be a major shock.
Rank 50 in the world, aren't they? 50th in the world.
Yeah, I think it'd be a real shock if they were to get through to the last 16. That would be a big surprise.
I still feel Senegal will come second. I still feel it's got enough in there.
Well, typically, Martin, when I was there in July, the chief executive Nasser Al Khater was talking up their own chances, and Qatar, we hope to do very well. And of course, they're going into it, whether or not he truly believed it. But they feel, as host nation, they themselves want to send out some kind of a football message.
And they'll get enormous support. And we've seen host nations often do well. But of course, it's very unusual for a team of Qatar's standing to be the host nation. So we're in an unusual situation.
I mean, uniqueness of being a host nation, it has very little material benefit because there's actually more people coming in that are football fans than actually exist in the country in the first place, right?
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see the level of support they get, how vociferous that support is. And how much of a material effect it has on the team. But what you're looking at is players who do not play club level at a high level, at the highest level as we would perceive it. That's not to the detriment of Asian club football, but the basic reality is at the top clubs, there are not Qatari
Is it an easy win, though, this group for Holland?
I don't think it's an easy win, but I think the Netherlands, if they start well, I think they'll be fine. I think they should win the group. Louis van Gaal, I think, is the star in many ways.
Came in halfway through.
Experience. Yeah, he's made some bold choices. They've got weaknesses, as a lot of the top nations have, actually. I worry about the goalkeeping situation. Justin Bieler will probably be their number one. He can be a little bit up and down. They left out the likes of Silerson and Flecken, so bold choices there. You've got Virgil van Dijk, of course, at the heart of defence. Be interesting to see if De Ligt gets in that team. There's been talk in the Netherlands that he prefers the wide centre-backs to be guys like Ake, Timber, who can bring the ball out. Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So, Kevin, there we've got it then. Group A, Qatar, Ecuador, Senegal, Netherlands. Who's your top two?
I think the Netherlands go through as winners. And I think it's going to be ever so tight between Senegal and Ecuador. Senegal probably have just enough, but I think that's really, really close.
Wow, it's quite a group. Looking forward to it. So then we move on to Group B. England, Iran, USA and Wales. Kevin, so much has been said about this. Can Southgate's team recover from what was a very poor UEFA Nations League for them? And also recover from the disappointment of Wembley, losing to the Italians in the Euros final, and do it. Not only win this group, win every match after that.
Well, look, I think people should be quite positive and confident about England, because I look at the way the draw works. If England were to win the group, and it's not a gimme, I know people look at it and think Iran, USA, Wales is maybe a bit kinder than some of the other groups. There are banana skins there. I think Iran potentially is. But if they were to win the group, and I think that's the crux of it for England, if they win that group, it opens things up, because in theory, and we only say in theory because you never know how these World Cups are going to go, but in theory that should keep Brazil and Argentina away on the other side of the draw. And then you've potentially got France in the quarterfinals. Again, there's a lot of ifs, buts and maybes. I do think France have incredible quality, but there are big question marks.
Denmark,
question marks. Yeah, well, exactly.
Who tops that group is very interesting.
That's a great point, Martin, because Denmark beat France home and away in the Nations League.
Twice.
Yeah. Exactly. And
but Mark, what about England here? What about England? Winless in 6. Does form not matter?
Jim, when you look at their pedigree in the World Cup, we've got 7 possible starters from the last semi-final of the World Cup, which we made last time round. And added to that, we've got Bellingham in midfield and we've got Foden. We've added real quality. The front two, Sterling, I expect us to play a back 3. Trippier probably be the right side of wing back. There's a dispute over whether it would be Luke Shaw left side, or even Saka could be on the left. I do feel that it would be a midfield 3 with perhaps 2 up top. So, but that can actually morph into a top 3. So we have really good players that we've added to a team that got to the semi-final last time round anyway, and then got to a Euros. So I can't think we're going backwards. It's whether or not the likes of Maguire and Stones are still at the level. I think Maguire's a major question mark going into it, and we need to manage his minutes. So we're going to play a back 5. I think the manager's proved that. We got to the final of the Euros 2020. Yeah. We went from a 4 to a 5. So England will. I think England will win this group.
England win the group, Kevin?
Yeah, I think they will. I completely agree with Martin. I think you've got a group of players largely that reach the semi-finals of a World Cup, that reach the final of the European Championship. There's no divine right for England to be winning major tournaments, but he's gone deeper in tournaments than Capello did, deeper in tournaments than Eriksson did. I think there is something to be said for having a set way of playing, a pattern of play.
Experience.
Everybody knows what the job is supposed to be, and generally when he's experimented, it hasn't worked very well. And I think there's a parallel with coaches like Deschamps. Deschamps has all of this quality at his disposal, and there are a lot of fans in France who say it's too dull, the way we play is too staid, we should be scoring lots of goals, playing lots of attacking football. Generally, international football doesn't work that way. And so Deschamps has been largely, if you look at it, yes, the Euros were a huge disappointment, but largely very successful.
This could be a controversial question. Who's the most difficult group game for England?
I think the first one. I do.
Not the USA,
Iran.
not Wales?
No, I think
what can Iran do to them, Kevin?
Well, what Iran will do, they've got a very good coach in Queiroz who is very experienced. They will defend in a very organised way, but they've got dangerous players at the top. So Mehdi Taremi is a goal scorer at Champions League level with Porto, very good player. We don't know if Sardar Azmoun's going to be fit, maybe not, but they do pose a threat on the counter. So they're going to make it awkward for England. It's the first game. You acclimatise, you haven't had a huge run-up at it. So that, for me, could be a tricky game. But I think if you get a win in that first one, that's a great springboard.
Are Iran capable
20th in the world
of upsetting England?
I think they're capable of holding England. I think they're capable of making the game messy, awkward, especially in those conditions. And England can be slow starters in tournaments. We've seen that before. So that's the big challenge.